To our next speaker. Karen Chaston is a beyond loss expert who is passionate about demystifying loss for one and all. Demystifying Loss is the title of her 5th and soon-to-be released book. As a former chief financial officer of a publicly listed company, she's also passionate about business understanding the correlation between their people and their profits. Karen is the co-founder of the Chaston Centre, a place for meaningful living. It's a place that brings her two passions together in both online and face-to-face programs. For individuals, they assist those who are suffering from any kind of loss to create a better life. For companies, Karen not only challenges the status quo by asking, is there room in the modern workplace to be more human? She then also provides tangible solutions that will assist them to make the best possible product and offer the best possible customer experience to build the strongest possible company. Her motto, life is too short to be suffering from any kind of loss. Unwrap the gift this has brought and then design a life that you live and love. Please welcome to the State Library of New South Wales, Karen Chaston.
Have you ever noticed that in order to solve a problem, you first have to be aware that there is one? Sarah is a senior executive in a very large corporation, and she prided herself on the fact that each and every day she would walk up to all of her staff and she would say, "Good morning, how are you?" She would have a conversation with them. And she honestly believed that she was connected to every single one of her staff members. Until one day, when Mary said to her, after she had asked, "How are you today, Mary?" She said, for the next 20 minutes, she told Sarah exactly how her life was. And Sarah was standing there listening to Mary, wondering, why is she telling me this? Why is she actually telling me everything that's going on in her life? What am I meant to do with this information? How can I help her? I'm not a therapist. Am I meant to know how to help Mary? And I'm about to be late for a meeting. Am I really meant to be able to help Mary? So she said something polite to get away from Mary, and then she continued on with her day. But it stuck with her for days and days and days. And Sarah started to wonder, when did "how are you" become such a meaningless interaction with no connection, where the person who is asking the question really doesn't want to know, and the other person who is answering the question doesn't really tell the truth? It really played on Sarah. And I totally understand it, because I'm Karen Chaston. And I used to be a C.F.O. of a publicly listed company. And just like Sarah, I used to believe that I was totally connected to every single one of my staff members. I had to become a beyond loss expert for me to truly understand that I wasn't connected. I wanted them all to be just like me. Why can't you just rock up each and every day, do your daily activities, and then go home? I was the first one in and normally the last one to leave. Why can't they just be like me? And when we look around every single corporation in the world, I think you will find exactly the same dilemmas, with many managers asking that question. Why does it have to be so hard to motivate staff? Gallup has done yearly surveys, and since the early 2000s, they have always come back with the fact that there are 30% of employees that are engaged. Only 30% of employees that are engaged, which means that there are 70 that are not engaged. And they break it down even further. They say 40% of them are disengaged, and the other 30% are actively disengaged. So let's put them into numbers. I told you I was an accountant, so we have to bring the numbers into this talk now, don't we? So in 2019, there were 7.6 billion people in the world. Let's round it up to 8. Gallup also tell us that 60% of our world population is employed. So we'll bring that to 5 billion people. So 5 billion people are employed in the world. 30% of them, 1.4, are engaged. Okay? Then we have the other 70%, which adds to 3.6 that are disengaged. Houston, I think we have a problem. We have 3.6 billion people in the world who are disengaged. Imagine what would happen if we started to engage these people in the workplace. Can you imagine the creativity, the innovation that would actually come into every single workplace, into every single community, into every single country, and eventually to the whole world when we start to engage those people? And that's what we're going to explore today. We're going to deep dive into how we could possibly engage these people. Now, as I said, I was a CFO of a publicly listed company. And the funny thing about it is I had to leave that role and become a beyond loss expert in order for me to bring the dots together, to say, this is why people are disengaged, this is how we can engage them, and this is how we can build and live in the world that we all would love to live in. So let's explore it. But first of all, how would I go from being a CFO to a beyond loss expert and co-founding the Chaston Centre? Well, in order for me to tell you about that, I'm going to take you all back to July 2011. It was a Sunday morning, a Sunday that I remember like no other. My husband and I had slept in, thinking we were having a lazy Sunday at home. Within moments of us waking up, I was running down the back stairs after my husband Andrew had called out, "Bloody hell, Dan is asleep at the back door." Alarm bells went off because I knew our 27-year-old son had a habit of drinking way too much. As I rushed out the back door, I could see him lying there in the fetal position with saliva coming out of his mouth. "Dan, Dan, Dan, wake up, Dan, wake up." Within moments, the paramedics arrived. And they just walked up to him and then turned to me. And they said those words that no mother, no parent ever wants to hear. "I'm sorry, madam, he is dead. Probably has been for several hours." What does one do with that information? What would you do? What did I do? I chose survival, and I went straight back to work after his funeral. I lived all the cliches that we've heard for centuries and centuries and centuries. Just keep busy, give it time, you'll be fine, don't worry about it. You know, the good always die young, don't worry about it. You have 2 other sons, what more do you want? It could have been worse if you had none. All of these things that come at you and you just keep carrying on because that's what you're meant to do. And because I kept carrying on, eating more, drinking a lot more, and working even harder, I now know that the universe had to send me another wake-up call because I was so deep into my Groundhog days that I love to call it, of just trudging on. And I was in it days long before Dan had passed. So I had to send me another wake-up call. And this one came in the form of me having to choose whether to go with the newly formed company, not a CFO, but doing everything you're doing now plus more, Karen, we love you. Please come with us. And I originally thought, sure, why not? I don't really care what my title is. I'm really good at my job. Until they gave me my contract. And it was the salary that I looked at. Actually, it was the salary I turned to the first page when they handed it to me. And I went, is this a part-time job? And they went, don't be a smart-ass. And I said, well, seriously, that salary, it must be. It was 2/3 of my current salary. And they said, we've done the research, that's what it's worth. And I was really angry, really, really angry. How dare they do this to me? Who do they think they are? They told me I was the oracle of the company and I set the standard for everyone. And this is how they treat me. I was angry, really angry, for about 48 hours. And then I started to wake up. I started to realise that I was only there for the money. My much-loved job, I was only there for the money. And if I was honest with myself, I was wasting most of it in my unhealthy habits just to get through the day. I was drinking a bottle of wine a night. And if anyone had said to me at that time, how do you cope with stress? I would have said, I never get stressed. And I was right in my assumption because I was always in that heightened state. I never came down. I never came into the rest and restore. So then I backed me. And that's when I started on this journey that I love to call the journey to becoming my own best friend, where along the way I became a life coach who specialises in loss, who founded or co-founded, and the other founder of the Chaston Centre is Dan, because Dan's the one who has got me by the back and he's pushing me this way and he's pushing me that way and he's showing me, Mum, you never listened to me when I was alive, but you're listening to me now. And he is the guide. So why wouldn't he be the co-founder? He's got me doing everything I've done now. Speaking, writing books, sharing stories, creating programs, all designed to assist people for more meaningful living. Because when we look around the world, we have how many people disengaged? Exactly. So, as I started to create the Chaston Centre and bringing all my programs together, which assist people to move beyond any kind of loss, okay? Now, here's the key thing. Most people think loss is death of a loved one. There are over 40 different loss events that can affect our lives. Each and every one of us. Loss of a loved one, a divorce, a separation, a job loss, your health, your wealth, even your pets. And if we go back to the 2020 pandemic, all of the minor ones came to the forefront. Loss of freedom, loss of choice, loss of status, changing work conditions, changing recreational activity, changing social activities. And then we realise that people are doing loss the way that Elizabeth Kubler-Ross has suggested, the 5 stages of grief. But we did it wrong. She wasn't telling people this is how you do loss. She was telling people this is how we've done loss. And this is why it's not working. Because we continually look at that loop and we go back and we squash our feelings down, 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 down. You look at the world. Not many people know what to do when loss visits. They don't want to talk about it. They don't want to know about it. They never, very rarely do they know even what to say. Yet, every single one of us are going to have multiple major losses in our life. Just think back. Normally I would hold up a chart of the 40 plus loss events. And every single time I've done it, people go tick, 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 tick. I think the highest in one room was 21. I've had 21 of those and I'm only 40. So you think about all the loss events in your life and have you actually moved beyond them? Do you actually have ease and grace? Have you found the gift in them? Have I found the gift in Dan passing? Yes, I have. I certainly have. And I have to tell you, I spend more time with him than I do with his two brothers who are in this realm. And they don't really like it that much, but anyway, that's another story. So as I started to bring all of this together, I started to think back to my corporate days. Why didn't I have this understanding? I seriously thought that I understood all my employees. Hey, sure, I understand profits. I can get any company into profits. I know the mechanics of how to do that. But I didn't understand the mechanics of motivating staff. And not many managers do. So that's where the people and profits connection was born, because I started to realise that 40 plus loss events in our life, I've got people coming to work, some days they are amazing. What they achieve in one day, you would think they were about to go on holidays. You know what it's like when you're about to go on holidays and everything you do on that last day? Imagine if you did that every single day. Okay, probably not realistic, but that's how it could be. So then I started to put it all together and I realised that people are suffering. And a lot of them are suffering from grief that they don't even understand why they're grieving, because they've never associated what's happened in their life as a loss event. Why do I feel this way? Why do I feel like I'm grieving, like I've really lost something? All of my friends and family are going, get over it. What's wrong with you? Come on, move on, move on. This happened, it's in the past, don't worry about it. But in reality, they're in grief and they don't understand they're in grief. So then we all go into what we call an avoidance tactics. Now we're all so good at avoidance, we have created trillion-dollar industries of alcohol, pharmaceuticals, shopping therapy. You know, it's unbelievable the things we have done just to go into avoidance so that we don't have to deal with that. Because there's something wrong with us if we can't get over that, because everyone else is getting over it. But are they? No. They're all suffering in silence. And they're all wondering why they feel the way they do. And they're wondering why they're reaching for that drink or thinking about that drink at 3 p.m. in the afternoon and, oh shit, I'm not going to be home till 7. Believe me, I've been there and I understand it. So that's when I started to put together the people and profits connection. And it's a 3-step process. The first step is called the you factor. As you probably gathered, it's all about you. This is where we deep dive into you, where you are, where you've been, and where you'd like to be, and how you can get there. But in order to do that, we've got to look at your loves, you've got to look at your losses, and we've got to look at your avoidance tactics. Because until you understand all of them, you can't really create where you want to go. Not without bringing all that along with you. And that's just so heavy. We've really got to release it all. Learn the lesson, move on. So once we've got that factor, the you factor done, we then move into the know, like and trust factor. No, that's not a marketing strategy for your business. It's actually a strategy for you and all of your employees. Because until you get to know each other, truly know each other, where you can actually ask that question, how are you? And you actually are ready to receive what they have to share with you. And then when you get to know them and like them, you get to trust them. Just imagine a workplace where everyone actually trusts each other. They trust that you will tell them the truth. They trust that they can tell you the truth. They trust that if they come to you with this amazing, innovative, creative idea, that you will not just throw it in the rubbish and discard it or take it as your own idea. They know that you will actually promote it and run with it and say, isn't it amazing that Mary Jo came up with this idea? Let's celebrate her because she's now created all of this extra revenue and this for our business. Isn't that a business that we all want to be part of? And then we move on to the third factor, which is the resilience factor. And this is where we deep dive into all of the strategies on how you can build resilience. Resilience is a learned skill. Most people think you either have it or you don't. You can learn resilience, and that's what we do. And the most important part about it is when you know what to do when another loss event happens in your life or something happens in your life and you've got the know-how on how to move forward, you have resilience because you know you may go down, but you won't go down for long and you certainly won't go into avoidance. So I started today's little talk about us having to realise that in order to solve a problem that we have one. Well, we have a problem. We have 3.6 billion people in the world who are disengaged. And we can easily engage them through the people and profits connection. Can you imagine what will happen to our companies, to the people in those companies, to their extended family and loved ones when they become engaged? When they actually can tap dance to work and tap dance home because they are living and loving their life. Sure, loss is going to come again. We are living in an infinite journey from love to loss. Most of us know how to do love. We just don't know how to do loss. When we know how to do both, we can easily go from one to the other without those avoidance tactics, with actually people understanding why we are feeling this way we are feeling. Just imagine that world. That's a world that I look forward to living in. How about you?